Today on the DNVR Rockies podcast, we are talking about the new reliever in the bullpen, Jimmy Herget, what to know about him, where he came from, what's the role he's going to play for the Rockies. That's coming up next right here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. $135 days until opening day. It feels like a lifetime before we get there, but we've got some Rockies news to talk about here on the DNVR Rockies podcast, live from the Toyota Lounge. I'm Christian Saez, joined by Hank, who's doing a little double dipping today. You came from the Broncos pod right before this. Now you get to talk a little Rockies after that devastating Broncos loss this last weekend. So doing a little double dipping. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice that this is going to be my turning point. No more thinking about that Chiefs game.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we got on the podcast. It's also crazy how yesterday you're like, oh, I'm just going to sit here, watch some Sunday Night Football, not even going to think about it. But then next thing you know, there's incredible win by the Chiefs. And so the whole halftime is you won't believe this. We're going to show you every great win the Chiefs had this year. It's wow, you just really can't get away from this. Because for 90% of the people, that was just the coolest thing ever.
Patrick Mahomes looked like he just won the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And then for the 10% of the people who wanted the Broncos to win, it's no, that sucked.
I would argue there's more than 10%.
Yeah, it's about 30 people wanted the Chiefs to win.
Yeah,
and then
only
the
Kansas
rest
City
of them,
people.
only 30%, and then the rest wanted
Are the Chiefs
Broncos.
the Dodgers of the National Football League right now?
Well,
they
I hate
have to
them,
be.
so yeah,
They
I'll
have to
take
be
it.
the Dodgers of the National Football League, which made that loss so much more excruciating. I won't go hash over old wounds with you on the show. We'll get to talk a little Rockies today. And for those watching at home, I apologize if I'm a little winded today. I seem to have come down with a bit of a fall bug and losing the voice a little bit. Also have a couple broadcasts in schedule this week, so I'm trying to take it easy. And I was actually thinking about this. I was thinking about this on the drive over here as I was downing tea and honey on the way to the studio. Having a sore throat / losing your voice as a broadcaster working in our industry is the equivalent in baseball terms of Kyle Freeland having a blister. You can probably play through it. You're it's not gonna completely throw you off. You're not gonna have to take months off, but it's annoying enough where you're not on your game. That's where I feel right now, where I'm I don't have the same energy. It's just not there.
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. I think some mornings we do the morning podcast, and occasionally, I have a good routine where it's wake up, try to go to the gym, but then actually just kind of sit on the couch for a half hour. But it helps you to wake up. Yep. Take a shower, go grab a Celsius. And so you kind of do these things. But some days you just aren't totally awake by 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And it feels like you do everything the same way. But then you get here and it's I'm not doing well.
Yeah. Those morning shows are tough, especially when you're coming off of a long weekend of games for football and that kind of stuff. But we're getting through it. We're getting through it today. Like I said, I've got my tea here. I'm not normally a tea drinker, but today my wife, Marissa, had made me drink some tea, and we're going to make it. We're going to make it through this. Yep. But we got some Rockies stuff going on because the Rockies signed a right-handed pitcher, a reliever, coming over technically from Chicago, although I'll explain why that he never really showed up. You'll never see him in a Chicago Cubs uniform in any pictures you see of him. But the Rockies signed 31-year-old Jimmy Herget. They added him to the 40-man roster. And so I want to kind of break this down by starting to describe kind of why the Rockies signed Herget. And if you're not familiar with where we are in the offseason and kind of the deadlines that are coming up, the Rockies were pretty much in a position where they needed to fill their 40-man roster, just given how the Rule 5 draft is coming up, how some of that plays out as the season gets going with guys who are on the IL, all of that kind of stuff. To save you all of the technicalities, you just needed to have your 40-man roster full to give you flexibility during the season when you have, a handful of players that are going on the IL. So that's why they made this move in this kind of context. But who is Jimmy Herget, to transition into who we're going to be seeing a little bit off and on throughout the rest of this upcoming year. He's 31 years old. He was nicknamed the Human Glitch, which I had in our thumbnail because he throws sidearm, and he's kind of a funky right-hander. I almost think like, and I was kind of trying to make this comparison from a technicality standpoint. Like, he's like a combination of Justin Lawrence arm slot with like Hunter Pence mechanics, like all over the place. Kind of, you never really know where the ball's going to end up from a hitter standpoint. Throws from that weird release point. Like, it's just kind of weird, which is where he got the nickname Human Glitch. So based on that alone, he's an interesting prospect for the Rockies because I think he stands as someone who could possibly be kind of a good middle inning reliever who could just get you some depth in your bullpen. Yeah.
I think that he's a good addition. Again, so I should start this by giving some context that I'm a big Rockies fan. I don't know all of like the details of like the 40-man roster.
Sure, who does?
But I think that it's interesting you add a guy like that because when Justin Lawrence was on, you just see like the dynamic that he adds because it's just like this different sort of thing to look at. I'm curious to see how this bullpen shakes out though, because it seems like the goal would be that you have a bunch of young guys who are taking the majority of these innings, and you can bring in a guy like Jimmy, whose last name is difficult to pronounce, and if it works, you roll with it, and if it doesn't work, you say goodbye and say like Jaden Hill. How about Jaden Hill? Let's see what you can do.
Yeah.
So it just seems like a very low risk, but like potential.
Yeah.
High potential guy just because it does add just something new to the mix.
Well, and so let's get into like what kind of what the Rockies were looking at when they signed him, because I do think you're right. There's some upside to what he's shown. However, there's not a lot of sample size, let's say, at the big league level. So he's pitched in the bigs off and on for about 6 years. His best stint was in Anaheim with the Angels for 2 seasons. He kind of had about right around a 3.2 ERA out of the pen. He has a career ERA of 3.54, has 141 strikeouts. 22% strikeout rate with 47 walks, which is pretty low. It's a decent liner across 155 innings. He recorded 4 or more outs in 41 of his 129 career appearances, which is a good sign. Last season he pitched in Atlanta. He only threw 12 innings. He had 15 Ks, 3 walks, which was good. But then Chicago kind of claimed him off waivers after Atlanta DFA'd him. Chicago, before they even threw him out onto the mound, they just DFA'd him. They didn't even give him a shot, which is when now the Rockies are swooping in to pick him up. So I think the side that you're looking at for the Rockies and picking him up is that he has the potential to be a good strike thrower. He's got good stuff. He fits into this Coors Field pitching rotation style where you got a guy who gets a lot of ground balls, throws a lot of breaking balls. He's accurate, doesn't walk a lot of guys, doesn't give up high power hits usually. He's not a big home run, pitcher. So he's just kind of a safe fit, and he fills that spot for you.
Yeah. I'm curious why Atlanta moved on from him. Because I get that he wasn't great. Like, you can look at the 4.38 ERA, 97 ERA plus.
Yeah.
Which, again, slightly below average. And I guess if you're the Braves, like, that just doesn't live up to your standards. And
That's
so, like, what, 2 to 1 innings pitched in the minors versus the majors, I think it was. Maybe something like that.
Yep.
Again, Rockies won't have the luxury of moving in between the minors and the majors unless he does clear waivers, is my understanding.
To my understanding as well.
Okay.
I think he's served enough time, but we'll see.
Yeah. So I'm just, he seems like he could be a valuable addition to the Rockies, but maybe that's just because it's the Rockies and the bar to clear isn't that high.
I was going to say, so yes, you're right. Atlanta, I think, was in a position where they see themselves in a playoff window, championship window, if you ask anyone from Atlanta. And I think they had picked him up in lieu of some of the injuries that they had. I mean, Atlanta was one of the most injury-prone teams in all of baseball last year. They pick him up. and got a little bit out of him and then just realized, you know what, we do still have a shot here to get into the playoffs without him, and I think that's where they ended up needing to get into a position with their roster to be a playoff team right then and there. Now for the Rockies, though, I do feel like he's a good fit, and I'm going to explain why I think so in just a minute or get into the details. But I want to talk a little bit about his stuff because it's important to look at what he's got in his arsenal to be able to see what the Rockies and what us Rockies fans are going to be able to see from him this year. So I said it. He's style-wise, he's a Justin Lawrence style pitcher with just kind of funky mechanics. Batters have a really hard time getting their timing down because of his weird release point. So he's a guy who, if you watch some clips of him throwing, his fundamentals, his mechanics are actually really smooth, kind of clean. He doesn't use a lot of, he's not like Tim Lincecum where he's just flailing around and, he's not one of those kind of guys, very limited movement, but with his kind of weird release point, his ball sneaks up on guys. So his fastball, he's got two different fastballs, 2-seam and 4-seam, leans on his 2-seamer more because it has more of that break. But he could sit anywhere between 90 and 96 miles an hour, usually sits in the low 90s. But because of his kind of funky mechanics, his fastball catches up on hitters, which in turn gets a lot of ground balls, a lot of jammed shots, especially on righties. So that's an interesting with his fastball. But his main pitch that he leans on is his off speed. He throws a sweeper about 40% of the time. He's got a good slider/cutter combination. Sits about 83 to 87 miles an hour. He has a changeup. Doesn't pitch his changeup very much, but he can use it as a setup pitch. And he also has a sinker. So he's just a guy who's going to come out there, and if he can keep his accuracy in check, which he's shown that he has in his career, if he can keep his accuracy in check, he's going to be a guy who comes in, and I believe for the Rockies, can get a lot of ground balls, put the ball in play. He's not going to get a ton of strikeouts, but you have one of the best defensive lineups behind you. I think that can help him in being successful in a place like Colorado because you put the ball in play, good things happen in Colorado.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And he just seems stable. Yet sometimes I wonder how, like if I was a Braves fan or a Dodgers fan or something, how I'd see these numbers differently. But when you run through like career ERA, 2019, 4.26, then 3.2, then 5.3, 2.48, 4.66, 4.38. Like,
yeah,
as a Rockies reliever, if that's kind of the range you're looking at, like there's room for you in the bullpen. Like,
I agree. Well, and
you hope that you get back to like the 2022 numbers where he was pitching incredibly well. But even if he doesn't, like if that's somebody who worst case scenario is back end of the bullpen, it just seems like a nice, clean, good pickup and a nice addition.
Well, and I also like the fact that he's not an overpowering pitcher because the Rockies bullpen started to trend towards, at the end of the year, looking like it's going to be one of the top rated velocity pens in all of baseball. They had in the month of September the fastest rated fastball across the entire bullpen in all of the National League. So it's a bullpen that can throw on average 98 to 101 miles an hour in most of your pitchers. Now that's great in late inning games when you need guys like Blake Trine and Michael Kopech, to name a couple of successful Dodgers pitchers late in the games, to come in and get quick outs in late innings. But I also need to see guys who can bail out a starting pitcher who only got through 4 innings and said, you know what, Kyle Freeland wasn't on his game, or Senzatella wasn't on his game today. So now we're going to see, they're going to bring in Herget in for 2 innings to just go get some ground balls, get you out of an inning, maybe limit the damage, give up a run here or there, and kind of limit it to that. That, to me, is best case scenario for him. I do feel like he fits into this Rockies rotation in a pretty good way. I'm actually in favor of this move.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we're going to see any big moves at this point from the Rockies, at least nothing coming up anytime soon. The Rockies needed to fill their 40-man roster. The Owen Miller move was a little confusing to me, a little bit strange to me, just given where you are defensively and the fact that he doesn't have a bat. This felt okay to me. It pads the bullpen a little bit.
Yeah. I'm curious. So the other option here would have been to add somebody to the 40-man roster who, you like want to keep away from the Rule 5 draft.
Correct.
So when I look through, like, isn't like a Zach Veen for example, somebody who could be Rule 5 eligible. Like he's Rule 5 eligible. Why wouldn't you just add somebody like that? And again, I like the pickup, and maybe there's some corresponding move at some point so that you can find a spot for him. And off the top of my head, I don't think there's anybody else who would be a Rule 5 threat. But to me, it seems like that would have been the easy way to fill it out.
I will say, going back to the Owen Miller thing and in response to what you're saying, Owen Miller did not get added to the 40-man roster, although it was initially believed that he might. And I have a list of our 40-man roster up here. I want to read through this because there are some names that are on there that I don't think Rockies fans realized were on there just yet. I do want to read this in just a moment, but we got to hit a break first. So after the break, we're going to talk about the Rockies 40-man roster and dive a little deeper into that. But before we get into that, got to talk about our friends over at UC Health, specifically talking about men's health. And look, you got two guys on the show here right now. I speak from experience. It's something that I have overlooked a lot throughout my life, talking about men's health. And I just think, you always think, especially being in our 20s, that everything feels invincible, right? I feel like nothing's ever gonna happen to me. And, and my wife and I, we're kind of getting to that point in our lives where we're like, all right, we want to make sure we're getting as healthy as possible and staying healthy, getting ready to start having kids, that kind of stuff. So I actually went in to get my blood drawn and do some blood work the other day. And turns out I had pre-diabetes, which I guess ran in my family. Didn't know that. No one in my family has diabetes, but I would not have known that if I hadn't gone in and got my blood checked. And so I give credit to my wife Marissa for kind of pushing me to get my blood checked, because like most guys, I was just kind of like, whatever. Like, I'm 27 years old, I'm totally fine. So I was able to talk to the doctors. They were able to get me set up on just better nutrition plan. Going to the gym a couple more times a week. But I guess the reason I share that is because it's important for anyone, even if you're under 30 years old or in your 20s or whatever age you are, to talk about health and to go in and get yourself checked, whether it be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or beyond. You got to make sure you take care of your health, and UC Health is trying to make it as easy as possible to get that done with online scheduling and other convenient features available in the UC Health app. So download that app to get started, and like I said, take care of your health, guys. It's always better to get on top of that ahead of time and be able to react before it's too late than to have to react after you find out something's gone wrong and now you're kind of backpedaling. So talk about your health. Talk about your health tomorrow, especially for us guys out there. Join the men's health conversation at uchealth.org/men's health. Also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Toyota, because Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. And look, it's winter outside, even though it's starting to get nice again, which I'm feeling great about. It's nice to see the sun again after a couple days. It's still winter. The roads are still slick. There's still snow on the side. The plows are going to be out off and on throughout the rest of this winter. So you got to make sure you have a car that can handle all of that. And Toyota has so many choices for you, for cars that can handle the off-roads, the slippery roads, whether it's rain, snow, sleet, hail. Doesn't matter what it is, Toyota has you covered. Toyota has so many different options. You can go with the 4Runner, the Highlander, which is my car. I have a 2007 Toyota Highlander. You got the RAV4. You've got the Tundra. All different types of cars that can handle the off-roading and all the weather that can throw out there at you. And look, they've got over 17 different makes and models available. So whatever you're into, whether you're watching this show from outside of Denver, Colorado, or you're here in Colorado, Toyota has you covered. So visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota in Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. All right, back here at the DNVR Rockies podcast, Christian Saez, Hank Chisholm with us, talking about the Rockies 40-man roster. So I wanted to read through at least the pitchers, because we were talking about Jimmy Herget getting added to the list. And if, by the way, if there's a better pronunciation for his last name, I have not heard of one, but we don't get pronunciation guides with guys like this sometimes. So if I'm saying it correct, great. If not, someone please correct me. But let's go through the 40-man roster for pitchers, because there are some surprises in there, or not surprises, but guys that I didn't realize were on the 40-man roster. So you've got to rattle them off: Jake Bird, Bradley Blaylock, Angel Shiviji, Jeff Criswell, Ryan Feltner, Kyle Freeland, Lucas Gilbreth, Austin Gomber, Tanner Gordon, Seth Halverson, Jimmy Herget, Jaden Hill, Evan Justice, Tyler Kinley, Justin Lawrence, Herman Marquez, Juan Mejia, Anthony Molina, Luis Peralta, Cal Quantrill, Anthony Senzatella, and Victor Vodnik. So pretty straightforward on the pitcher side of things. Couple guys that we just didn't see a lot towards the end of the year with injuries, that kind of stuff. But the pitcher stuff's pretty straightforward. Catchers, though, I had forgotten, even though I still think the Rockies are going to re-sign him, that Stallings is a free agent. So it's just Hunter Goodman and Drew Romo right now. So the Rockies are definitely in need of a catcher for this next year, although I would love to see Romo and Goodman more.
Yeah.
I think they haven't solidified themselves as the big league catcher yet. So that's where you're at with catchers. Infielders, though: Adael Amador, Ryan McMahon, Brendan Rodgers, Aaron Schunk, Michael Tolia, and Ezekiel Tovar. I like seeing Amador in there over Owen Miller. Like that. Yep. That was one of the ones where I saw and I was like, okay, it made me feel a little bit better about the Owen Miller situation, because nothing against Owen Miller. I just think this is another rebuilding year. It's good to see some of those young guys who haven't had their shot yet be on that 40-man roster as a guy we're going to see in spring training and get to see, hopefully build on, especially if the Rockies move on from Rodgers this year.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the pitchers might be where, if you're trying to get Zach Veen on before Rule 5 draft is what, January? So you've got,
I believe so. Yeah,
something like that. So you've got plenty of time. And if all the rumors are true that you're actually trying to, like, maybe there's a Brendan Rodgers trade, maybe there's a Cal Quantrill trade, maybe you've got so many of those guys. Like, some spot is going to come free at some point, and that's when you can make that move. And who knows? Maybe you get somebody in return who fills that spot. But the more I think about it, the more there really is no rush, especially for a team that's expected to be selling.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
this offseason.
Oh, totally. Well, and then to wrap things out with the outfielders, you got Jordan Beck, Sean Bouchard, Chris Bryant, Brenton Doyle, Yanquiel Fernandez. Good to have him on that list. Sam Hilliard, Greg Jones, Nolan Jones. Greg Jones as well. Good to have him on that list. Just it's interesting to look at this 40-man roster in its totality, because it kind of gives you a picture of what you're going to see out of the Rockies in spring training. Even though some of those guys might not be on the big league roster coming into next year, they will probably be there for spring training. And it just shows you, I think, who's next in line to start getting looks at those positions. Yanquiel Fernandez. If Nolan Jones has another off year, or Jordan Beck doesn't quite pick it up where he left off, Yanquiel Fernandez, I think, is going to be right up there, in the outfield.
As he should be.
As he should be.
He's
exactly.
earned that. I mean, I'm going to see if I can pull up these final numbers, but it seemed like every week you're seeing some, like, another home run, another whatever it may be.
He was a stud.
Double A 283, Triple A 211 last year,
and Zach Veen
did dip off
as well. Zach Veen's in that mix
also
too.
There.
So so there's a lot of guys. And I will say, looking at that 40-man roster too, and as we transition into talking about defense, Rockies' defense is still touted as one of the best defensive teams in the National League. And I, to be completely honest with you, Hank, I was kind of surprised that the Rockies didn't win the NL Gold Glove team. Granted, the Brewers are an incredible defensive team, so I can understand them winning it as a team. But I think if you look at the Rockies and what they do well, and there's no doubt about this across all of baseball, you had 3 Gold Glove nominated players. You have a first baseman who is expected to win a Gold Glove or at least be nominated for a Gold Glove when he's eligible, if he continues playing the way he is. This is a Rockies team that I think is one of the more defensively compact teams in all of the National League, for sure. And nothing to discredit the Brewers as a team, but I do think the Rockies would probably be second on that list if you're looking at NL Gold Glove teams. Yeah,
I think it's tough for a team to win a team award like that when you're just not winning games. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I think that, if you're voting for the award, first of all, there's a real chance you just didn't watch the Rockies all that much, because it's not like they were playing a lot of big games.
I do think there is a popularity vote when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure how exactly the voting works in baseball, but I'd imagine there's like 1,000 writers or whatever who all get their own ballot.
I don't know about the team. I know I know coaches vote on Gold Glove. So the coaches are the ones that vote on the Gold Glove players. Fans vote on Platinum Glove, which is why I kind of made the case that I didn't think that Doyle was going to win it. just because I didn't know. Although we tried, we were campaigning hard for Brenton Doyle. I didn't know if there was. I didn't think there was going to be enough Rockies fans voting for Brenton Doyle and national baseball fans voting for Brenton Doyle. But I don't know how the Gold Glove team awards go.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm
it's
curious.
just based on how many players on your team won a Gold Glove. How many Brewers guys won a Gold Glove? I mean, you had the Platinum Glove for Turang.
I've got the list of finalists pulled up.
Because, even though Ryan McMahon didn't win the third base Gold Glove, he was still nominated. So you had 3 Rockies that were nominated for Gold Gloves, 2 of which won. And one, I would say, kind of handedly, although Tovar, I was surprised, actually. No knock on Tovar. I just thought, there were some good shortstops this year in the National League. But yeah, that was just interesting. But I wanted to address the whole Platinum Glove thing because Doyle not winning a Platinum Glove, I do feel like if coaches had the chance to vote, I think we might have been looking at a different winner for Platinum Glove. Bryce Turang, no knock on Turang. He's an incredible second baseman. But I feel like it's kind of BS that someone could win a Platinum Glove at the second base spot.
I think that's fair. I think it doesn't make much sense at all.
Like, if you're supposed to be the best fielder in all of the National League, it's got to be a heavier position than second base.
Yeah.
Second base just isn't weighted in the value of the field as much as center field. Catcher, Cal Raleigh winning for the American League, I understand that. Because the catcher position controls everything on the field. Like, you control the entire defensive set. And I always say center field, you control the outfield. First base, even, you control the hot corner. Third base, you control the hot corner. Shortstop and second and pitcher are the 3 positions I feel like you shouldn't win a Platinum Glove in.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes sense. I'm sure there's some numbers out there that can tell you that Brenton saved more runs or however they would phrase it than Turang.
But even stats aside, because I actually don't know. I should have looked at the stats before this. I don't know if the stats put Doyle in favor of Turang. And maybe the stats people out there will say, no, Turang was better than Doyle. If you're looking at stats, Tovar was better than Doyle. And from a stats only standpoint, Tovar's only made like 13 errors over his last 2 seasons. Like or 3 seasons. Like, he's insane from a stats standpoint. I think for winning Platinum Glove, and I talked about this, last week or a couple weeks ago when we were making the campaign to get Doyle that Platinum Glove. The reason I feel like Doyle had a chance to win Platinum Glove is because there's depth to his play defensively. Not only are his stats good, which, yes, they have to be, but he's a guy who can rob home runs. He can make diving catches. He's incredibly athletic. He commands one of the toughest outfields in all of baseball at Coors Field. He's super fast. He's a good outfield leader. He also has an incredible arm, which doesn't come with every single outfielder. You have great outfielders that have good defensive play that can't throw out guys in the same way that Doyle can from the warning track. Like, there was depth to my understanding of Doyle's play that goes beyond anything someone at second base can do. And again, even if Tovar was the second baseman, or if we were trying to fight for Tovar to win the Platinum Glove, I said it straight up. Tovar is great, but Doyle has more depth at his position in the outfield, in center field, than you do at shortstop or second base. That's just my opinion, having played baseball.
Totally.
It's a tougher position.
Totally. I figured out how they decide the Gold Glove Team Award.
Okay.
So it's based on the Sabre Defensive Index rankings. So those are like 25% of the vote in the actual Gold Glove Awards individuals, but it's the entire thing when it comes to the actual team awards. The Brewers had a 35.5, which was obviously the best in the NL.
Sure.
I'm not sure if that's equated to like runs or whatever, but 35.5, whatever that means.
We'll go with it.
Cubs second at 12. Diamondbacks 9.3. The Rockies coming at 9th at -2.
Huh.
Which makes me think I don't like this metric.
Yeah, well, sure. I don't either, man. I don't know what they're talking about. What's the metric again?
Sabre Defensive Index.
Sabre Defensive Index.
Or SDI.
What are they basing that off of? Like, does it say, like, are we looking at, defensive runs saved? Yeah, like,
it draws on and aggregates two types of existing defensive metrics. Those derived from batted ball location-based data. Those collected from play-by-play accounts, including from StatCast, Sports Info Solutions, those sorts of things.
Could that be affected by pitchers? Because here's the other thing. Tovar had a really good, what was it? He had like I think there's a stat called like chances. He had like one of the highest in the National League. Well, Rockies pitchers are giving up a ton of hits. They're giving up a lot of ground balls. Coors Field is that kind of place. Like, so he's getting a lot of chances more than other teams like the Dodgers, who their pitchers get so many strikeouts, their defense barely gets a chance.
Yeah.
So I wonder if part of that is like, where guys are hitting it on the field and how much that's happening. Like, it's like, okay, if guys are hitting things in the gap left and right and getting doubles and stuff, is that a knock on their stats?
I really wish they would just give us more detail. Like, is this just a pure rate stat?
Yeah.
Like, how often are you doing your job?
The Rockies being 9th, though, seems wild to me. That seems so low.
Yeah. Like, they don't seem like a below-average defensive team. I mean...
Maybe I've got my purple-colored glasses on right now, but...
You also think back and there's... I mean, how many times did Nolan Jones do something where you're like, that's disappointing? And maybe you remember him for because there are a couple games where they all seem to come at once.
No, I agree.
Maybe you can get caught up in like the five or
the really
five
good
guys
ones
who were playing so well that maybe there were more errors in other spots than you remember.
Maybe.
It doesn't seem that way.
It doesn't. I just think anytime you have a team where you have 3 Gold Glove nominated players, it's like...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just feel like that should mean something.
You would think.
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, the Rockies still lost 101 games, so I guess it didn't mean too much. But I've got to take a break. After the break, I have an interesting story to share with you guys. We're talking about stats here on the show, and I wanted to share an interesting stat that came up in Major League Baseball as a whole. So we're going to get into that after this break. But before we get into that, got to give some love to our friends over at Coors Light because, look, even though it's winter, even though it's not baseball season, there's still a ton of opportunities to enjoy Coors Light. I know my favorite time to enjoy Coors Light is at a baseball game, but I went to an Avs game the other day. Avs got a nice little win over the Kraken. It was last week, but I got to enjoy a couple Coors Lights, and it felt just as good as when I'm up at the rooftop enjoying Coors Lights at Coors Field. So no matter where you are, whether you're at a sporting event, whether you're here at the DNVR bar or at home, Coors Light is the best light beer. You can embrace that chill mindset, crack open an ice cold, refreshing Coors Light, and make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Also, they've got a cool thing where you can actually get Coors Light delivered straight to your door. It's 2024, almost 2025, and we're getting Coors Light delivered to our door. That's an incredible deal. So check that out. You can go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR, and you can get Coors Light delivered straight to your door. So please celebrate responsibly, everyone. Coors Brewing Company is based in Golden, Colorado. Well, we also want to share some love to our incredible friends over at Shady Rays because Shady Rays is the best when it comes to great premium sunglasses. And even though it is winter outside, even though it's getting a little cold out there, it's Colorado. We had a week of snow and dark skies, and I kind of loved it for maybe 24 hours. But then the sun comes back out, and it's like I'm blinded when I step outside. I didn't realize when I moved to Colorado that it's actually brighter in the winter than it is in the summer because of that reflection of the snow. I made that mistake when I went on a hike, and I forgot sunglasses, and I'm like snowshoeing, and I literally burned my eyeballs because I was so unprepared. I grew up in Washington, didn't ever have to worry about sunglasses in the winter. So don't make the same mistake that I made. Get some Shady Rays. They're affordable. They look great. They've got polarized options, and you can really enjoy winter at a higher level when you have good sunglasses here in Colorado. So we also have some great deals exclusively for our listeners. Shady Rays is giving their best deals of the season. Head to ShadyRays.com. Use promo code DNVR for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars or more by over 300,000 people. 5 stars or more? Maybe just 5 stars. But if you could give them more than 5 stars, we would. We would. All right, reining it back in here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. I had this. I came across this interesting stat, and maybe you guys have already known this. Maybe I'm late to this party. I just never realized this, but I want to ask you before I dive into this. Have you ever heard people talk about how many baseballs you go through in a major league game? Like if you could take a guess at how many baseballs each team goes through in a major league game, or each stadium goes through in a major league game.
That's a good question. So let's see. It seems like
because it's gone up over the years.
Ball hits the dirt, it's probably going back to the dugout.
It is. So I don't know if they recirculate those or if that ball is just gone.
Exactly.
Like
that's a good question.
Throw it away.
Is it different at Coors because they come from the humidor?
Maybe.
You know, do you have to like
I didn't even think
all the
about
way
that.
back through?
It might.
And then obviously you get a hit. That's got to be out of circulation.
Yeah.
You would imagine.
Anytime you get a ground ball, the last out of an inning that happens at first.
Yep.
Or really anywhere.
Yeah.
They toss it in. Tolia always is tossing up into the crowd.
You have so many foul balls that go out of play.
Yep. It's a lot.
Wow. This really makes you think because you would imagine what? There's at least one foul ball goes out of play per at bat. I would say another one goes in the dirt or something, and all of a sudden that one's out of circulation.
You're probably losing two at least average of two balls per
two
at
to
bat.
three, because again, there's a chance you get a hit also. So I'm going to go 2.5 per at bat. But then how many at bats? We'll say because that's how simple as outs. Exactly. So let's see, 54 outs in a game.
Yep.
Call it 57 on average because extra innings, those sorts of things. Oh, I'll call it 56 on average. Okay, 56
Yeah,
times,
57 was bold.
I'll go 4 or 5. I'll say 4.5 at bats per inning.
Okay.
Walks, hits, whatever. And then I'll say 2.5 balls per at bat. Oh, there we go. That brings me to when I hit enter,
it might be higher than what?
6,300 per game.
No.
I did something wrong there. I did something very wrong there.
I know my mom's at home right now.
4.5. There we go. Yeah. 630.
Okay, that's also high, but that does make sense. I know my mom's at home right now, wondering the very same thing because she's asked me a million times about this. Because you watch baseball and you're like, my God, they're throwing every ball away. Like, what are we doing? On average, MLB games go through about 200 balls in each big league game, which I actually thought you were going to guess lower than that. So you went high.
Off the top of
you
my
went
head.
high, but you broke it down in a good way. But 200 balls on average per game is wild because if you do the math, if we're staying in this math world here, 30 Major League Baseball teams play 2,430 games total each year because you obviously have to, times that by all the different teams playing 162 games. So out of the 2,430 games that are played across Major League Baseball, you times that by an average of 200 balls per game, you're looking at roughly 486,000 balls per season that Major League Baseball goes through. So now let's go a little deeper into that because that's just talking about the individual baseball that's getting lost. Well, how much money goes into that? So I dove a little deeper down this rabbit hole. Each baseball, for an average person to buy, for a Major League professional baseball is $15. Now, I would imagine per ball. Now, I'd imagine Major League Baseball probably gets those in bulk, and they get them at wholesale if they don't already produce their own. So let's just round down in bulk to say $10 per baseball. Major League Baseball spends about $5 million per year on baseballs, based on this math. That's the equivalent to how much money Ezequiel Tovar is going to make next year in his contract.
Wow. So you could have just said, just give me all the baseballs you use instead.
I guess.
Well, and that doesn't even count batting cage, like batting practice, all that sort of stuff.
Well, so I wonder if they recycle baseballs on a ball hits the dirt.
You use it in the game, now you get to use it.
The game-worn baseballs that are now batting practice baseballs.
Interesting. Yeah.
Which I would imagine is probably why the count is lower than the 600 that you were saying. Yeah. I bet you they probably recycle those balls so you get more than just, even though a ball comes out, pitcher throws in the dirt, right, got to get rid of that ball. It probably goes back into circulation, just no longer in a game ball situation. But still, that's crazy.
I figured out what I did wrong. I did the outs. So I did outs times at bats times outs times at bats per inning when it should have been inning. Otherwise, it would have come out to 202.5.
We would have.
But I screwed up, and it was. I blew it. I blew it.
Man, that would have been sweet. I gotta say before we hit this last break, there's another interesting story. That was a rabbit hole story for us.
That was a good one.
This is a different story that came out of the Dodgers fan world, which I don't always love talking about, but this one, you guys will get a kick out of this. I don't know if you saw this, because it was kind of circulating on Twitter for a while, for the last couple of days, but a Dodgers fan was apparently fired from his job for going to the World Series parade.
Oh, I did see that.
I sent a picture of the note that the employer gave. It's kind of small, but basically they were saying that this Dodgers fan, didn't give notice that they weren't going to be at work. It left the business unattended and understaffed, and so they had to close. This business had to close early because of this. Now, obviously, this is context is missing here. We don't know what job, how much that job paid, all of the background here. Sounds like it probably is more of a, I would say like retail / hourly job, like not salaried job, obviously. Is it worth it? If the Rockies win the World Series, and let's just say you're working at Target, a retail job, something like that, 40 hours a week, it's your full-time job, and the Rockies win the World Series, and you get scheduled on the parade day, are you going to the parade?
Oh, I'm going to the parade.
Even if your boss, knowing what's going on, says, Hank, I know you're a Rockies fan, I need you at work.
Yeah, I mean, we can math this one out too. So let's say it is Target. So I wake up, there's the Target, 16th Street Target.
Yep.
Honestly, maybe the worst Target in the area.
Maybe.
Very, very useful because it's nearby.
The Bellevue Target's better.
Yep. Takes like 10 minutes for me to get to that Target. And then it'd take another 10 minutes home. So every day, that's my commute, 20 minutes total.
Okay.
My commute, because I could just get a job at another Target. It's not like Targets are tough to find. My commute goes to what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes each way? So I'm paying, let's say max 40 minutes per day more I am driving to and from work. And that's the absolute max. That's worth it to go to a parade.
I agree.
Especially because if you work at Target, you probably change jobs every year and a half or so.
Probably.
2 years.
Yeah.
So 2 years
you're a manager
of a 40-minute commute. I mean, that adds up.
I will say I have some personal experience with this. When I moved here to Colorado, granted, I don't have the depth of fandom that some other people who grew up in Colorado have. So I understand there's a different context here. However, I have embraced and adopted all of the Colorado teams as my own since moving here 4 years ago. The Avs won the Stanley Cup, and I was working at Safeway in the mornings because I was broadcasting in the evenings. So I was working a morning 40-hour-week job at Safeway, and I did get scheduled to work the day of the parade, and I had a broadcast later that night. Because of that 1-2 combo, I did not end up going to the Avs Stanley Cup parade. And I was here at the bar for every single game. Like, I loved it. I was celebrating and whatever. But, in that moment, I just was like, I gotta go to work. I also kind of like ran a department. And so like, it was a little bit different. But for the Nuggets parade, when the Nuggets won, I called out sick.
Yeah.
I called out sick.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I have to. Like, I mean, we have back-to-back parades. I missed the first one. Like, I literally covered because I worked with a bunch of like diehard Avs fans too. So I kind of like helped them out and like covered because they were like Avs fans their whole lives.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like helped them out by covering for them on that day. When the Nuggets won the championship, I was at the parade the whole time.
Why is the store even open during the parade? You should be encouraging people to go to the like.
I agree. I mean, it's a corporate, like it was Safeway, like it's a corporate retail place.
If there was a grocery store that said we are closing for the parade,
if it was downtown, I could see that.
Yeah, I would go to that grocery store. I'd be like, "This is the best grocery store. I'm going to go there because that they understand my values."
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
My
school. So when I was growing up in Seattle, and the Seahawks won their first Super Bowl with Russell Wilson, that whole ordeal against, unfortunately for us, the Broncos.
Remember.
I know. I like my school. I was in high school at the time, and the school, which has like almost over 2,000 students, realized that there was going to be probably 200 people that actually showed up to school that day because that was the Seahawks' first Super Bowl championship too. So it was a huge deal, and they actually canceled school, or they made it. What was it like? And this was back before remote schooling was ever even a thing. They made it like remote optional, where teachers could send an email out to like the lesson plans for the day, and you could kind of like have the option to go do school from home. No one did, but well, I mean, come on, what are we doing? We're like 16-year-olds like going back home to study after the parade.
Give the option to the people that already don't want to be there.
What about the teachers?
The teachers were there. I don't think I had a
That's
single
terrible.
teacher that like showed up to the parade, and we
That's
had some
terrible.
huge Seahawks fan teachers. That
That's
were,
terrible.
Yeah, it was.
That's unacceptable. That's where they went wrong, because you got to let them go. Again, you want your school to have a good culture. You know, like that's arguably more important than the learning.
I agree.
Like that's like the multiplier on top of everything.
My one rebuttal to all of this is sorry, Christian, screw the Seahawks.
I mean,
They screwed
sure,
us.
sure.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm like,
I'm
glad
not a
they didn't
Seahawks
go
fan
screw
now.
them,
I'm
so-
not a Seahawks fan now. I just was there. Like I was there.
You put it in Broncos perspective here. After Super Bowl 50, like you have to let those teachers go. Like
Yes.
you want that to be part of your like environment.
The Rockies win a World Series. The entire city of Denver should shut down. It's the
Yes.
first World Series this state has ever won.
Probably the only one they'll win.
Yeah,
like odds. I mean, I
at
love
this
the
point-
Rockies, but if it
No, I
happened,
mean,
honestly, I
fair,
kind of feel the
fair.
same way about the Nuggets.
Yeah.
It's like I love this team. I know that they, to me, look like they're capable of winning a championship. I grew up thinking if the Nuggets win a championship, that's their only championship.
yeah,
and they did it.
and they did. And I mean, hey, they're
The
a good
Nuggets
team
were a
this season.
success.
They were a
They're a
success.
success forever. Rockies, if they ever win a World Series, they won.
Yes, and it's the pinnacle of everything.
Yeah.
It's why Seahawks fans, I don't want to dive too deep into this, but Seahawks fans who were like pissed at Russell Wilson for leaving, I was kind of the mindset of like, he won you a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He got you to back-to-back Super Bowls. Like,
Yep.
yeah, sure, it's kind of sucked the way he ended up coming to Denver, and look, we ended up getting the worst of that anyways. But like, he won you a Super Bowl. Like, I can't. I have a hard time with hating on a player
Yep.
who kind of leaves in disgust after they've won you a championship. Like, they win you a championship. If Jamal Murray left and said, middle finger to the Nuggets,
Yeah.
okay, that's a bummer, but he still won you a championship. I love Jamal Murray. Like, I will die on that hill.
Yep.
So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting story.
Is the Rockies the only one that you find acceptable to call out for a parade? Like, if the Broncos win another one, is it the same, or is it?
if the
same
Broncos
level?
if the Broncos win it, yes.
If there's a parade, everybody should be free to go.
Now, if the Nuggets win it again, maybe, and if I was in the same situation, I already went to a parade. I'm also not a huge parade guy, so like maybe I don't do the second one if I'm in that same position. But it's hard to quantify that. So, anyways, got to hit a break here, wrap up our last break, and then we'll get into some more baseball conversation. But before we do, got to give some love to our friends over at Bet365, because at Bet365, every single sport is epic, and there are some incredible sports to be betting on right now. College basketball is back.
It is.
I know you're a sports betting guy.
Oh, yeah.
And did you have any basketball bets over the weekend that you?
I mean, I
you
went
threw
big
out
on
there?
the. So let's see. Oh, I hit Arkansas to. No. I think I missed Arkansas. I hit Tennessee.
for basketball.
Tennessee ranked 16th.
Yep.
Playing against Louisville.
Yep.
Unranked at Louisville. Louisville favored. Mm-hmm. I think there's like the Dalton Connect hangover. It's like they're over it, whatever. That was a big win. That was an easy win. They won
Yeah.
by like 20. Not huge college basketball betting weekend, but that was the big one for
Yeah,
me.
if you had Arizona State, over Gonzaga, that was a close game. ESPN was posting that was an upset alert at halftime, and Gonzaga, my Gonzaga Bulldogs, ended up pulling off the win. But look, basketball's back. That means there is some great basketball bets out there, and Bet365 has some incredible offers when you use promo code DNVR365. When you sign up, you deposit $10, choose between either a bet and get offer by placing a bet of $5 or more and getting $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer by placing a bet of up to $1,000. And if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a match refund in bonus bets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we've got some incredible events coming up here for DNVR. Starting with our Avs takeover, November 15th. What is that? Coming up here in 4 days, Friday. Special guest Milan Hajduk
That's right.
hanging out. Excuse me. That's going to be a blast. I don't know if there are even still seats available on that takeover, but if you're not at the takeover, we're going to be watching it up here at the DNVR bar as well. So that entire experience is going to be a blast. Avs takeover versus the Capitals. Check out and see if there are more seats available. If there are, there's got to be like only one or two. That has gone really quickly. But that's going to be on November 15th. So go to thednvr.com/events to find out more information on that. And then we got a Buffs tailgate coming up against Utah at the old Harpo's Bar, parking lot, 7 a.m. Early morning game going on there. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. Are you going to be out there for that tailgate?
No, I won't. My Saturdays are my day just to watch every football game.
Yeah.
I don't know what time Montana plays either. I was tempted, but I've decided that I'm going to sit home. I'm going to watch my football. I'm going to make my money. I'm going to lock in a Buffs game, but it is what it is.
That's how I feel about Sundays for me. Sundays are my like lock-in day of just like, because I normally Saturdays I have a college football game that I'm calling. Mm-hmm. Fridays I was doing high school football, which is now in the playoffs, so I'm not doing that right now, which is nice, just from a schedule standpoint. And so Sundays are like my day of like, all right, I'm going to rest a little bit and catch up and just watch some football and be heartbroken usually by
Buffs
the end of the
at 10,
weekend.
Montana at 1. So yeah, I can't miss that first half hour.
Yeah, Saturday
is what it is.
Saturday's going to be a blast. So
it is.
Check that out, thednvr.com/events for more information. Hey, we're going to finish up the show by talking about our best Rockies moments. But before we get into that, I want to, so think about it. Think about what your favorite Rockies moment from 2024. Sorry, I should clarify. Just 2024.
Yeah.
Although there were some good moments from years
narrow
past.
It down, though.
It does narrow it down because there were only a few. There were only a few. But I want to throw this out there because we were talking a little bit about some of the other interesting kind of random stats that I've been seeing around baseball, and I think there's something that has 100% made baseball better over the last 20 years, and I want you to let me know if you agree with me on this. The amount of MLB games lasting 3 hours or more has gone down by nearly 70% since 2004. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for you? Because there are some baseball fans out there that are like, give me a 6-hour game. I'll sit through it all.
Oh, absolutely.
And I agree with that to a point. Mm-hmm. But in the grand scheme of the game, of our enjoyment of the game, especially of the Rockies, who have not had a good, successful year in the last 6 seasons, I got to say, from my perspective, I'm happy with the way that baseball has improved on their game times. In 2024, only 8% of MLB games lasted 3 hours or more. That's a great stat for me if I'm a baseball fan.
I hate it. I mean,
Really?
Yeah. Well, so the thing is, if I'm going to a baseball game, I don't want it to be 2.5 hours. Like I build my day around it. Like
really?
I want to go there and hang out for a long time. Like that's my day. And I get it's part of it for you might be like there's a work aspect. Like it is. Yeah. It's not like work where you're clocking in, clocking out. Yeah. And it's added an hour a day.
But sit in the press box.
Like it is different. But for me, like whenever I'm there, that's what I want. Or like when the Rockies are on TV. Again, it's just what you have on in the background in the summer. Like you turn it on.
I agree with that.
And because of that, I don't need that to be any shorter. So that's why to me, like
that's
it's
fair.
just much better if it's longer.
Yeah,
I hate that they're shorter.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're. I do think you're in the minority here, but although I agree with you on the point of having baseball on when I'm not at the games, when the Rockies are on the road and I'm not there, having baseball on in the background, in that case, give me an 8-hour game. Like I just want to have Rockies baseball on in the background. I'm cleaning the house, the sun's filtering in through the skylights, like dogs are passed out on the porch. Like that's a good day for me in the summer. Makes me miss summer right now. Aside from that, though, going to the game. 2.5 hours is perfect for me.
Really?
Yeah. Like I just love I love that you could like the game has a pace to it that I enjoy. It feels more tempo oriented than it used to. I do feel like you tune out a game that's 7-0, which the Rockies had a handful of those.
That's
like,
true.
You tune out those games when they're like 4 hours.
Yeah, but that happens when it's a bad game.
Yes.
To me, I just hate the feeling. It seems like sometimes you get there and you sit down. It's like, oh well, we screwed up. Like the line was long. First inning's already over. Yeah.
That is true. It does catch up quick.
And now if that happens, it's like, oh, third inning's already over. And you're just like, wait, I just missed a third of the game. And that one didn't happen to me this season, but I did have friends who showed up late occasionally.
I did have some rooftop experiences where I'd go like up to the rooftop to go like say hi to a friend who was at the game for the first time that year.
Yeah.
Talk to them for like 45 minutes. You look up and there's 3 innings have gone by.
Exactly.
I did have a couple of those.
That's a feeling I hate. But then also like sometimes you're sitting there and you're like, wow, it's already the 5th inning. Like that's
I don't know.
Where has this gone? Or like for me, like I'll go and I'll say like, okay, I'm gonna. So I live really close, and so I'll walk over.
That
like,
does help
especially
for you,
when like girlfriend's out of town for whatever reason, like, oh, I'll just go hang out, watch a Rockies game. Like I'll get dinner there. I'll call it like $8 ticket. You get dinner there, and next thing you know, it's like the 6th inning, and you're like, wait, I haven't eaten yet. And so every single time, and I probably did this 10 times this summer. It's like, oh, dinner, let's go to the Rockies game. Probably 8 or 9 of them, I just never got food because it goes so fast. And I don't want to miss anything. And then I go home, and it's like, well,
that's true.
Uber Eats or stop at the grocery store. Or like,
I mean, it's a 45-minute drive for me to Coors Field, so that's a totally different thing for me. Like when I go, I'm like for me, I'm thinking in the back of my head, I got traffic after this that I got to get through. I got to get home. Like after, I got to get to my dogs who haven't been out all day. Like it's a different experience being an adult who lives outside of the city and having to I can't even imagine when I have kids. That's gonna be. I'm stressing myself out.
I go, I wanna be that. Like, that's my day. Like, I just want to hang out and watch baseball.
I totally agree. All right, I want to give us enough time to talk about this. What was your Rockies? What was your favorite moment of 2024? Because I know you watch like every game for the Rockies. So
there's so many.
There's so many. Wow. All right.
Tovar. I can't remember. I lose details of games.
Sure.
But I wonder if you can pull which one this was. Tovar had a crazy game late where he didn't get the cycle, but I think he might have had a ball off the wall.
Was it home or away?
I believe it was home.
Okay.
I believe it was home. I believe there were a couple doubles. I believe there was a home run.
Yes. I remember exactly which game it is. I don't remember what team they were playing,
this
but I think they were playing the Cubs.
To me. And so this is where I struggle, is figuring out what exactly
So I think they were playing the Cubs because Cody Del Mendo, I had him on the pod, and I had just gotten done telling him, like, hey, just preparing you. Yes, the Cubs are better on paper than the Rockies, but the Rockies are just weird. Like, they can just dominate really good teams at random. And then they did. They had a walk-off. Tovar hit a walk-off double after Sam Hilliard tied it down by 2 runs in the 9th inning. That wasn't the game you're talking about, but that was another incredible game. And then Tovar, in I believe the game after that, had an almost cycle. He was on a cycle watch. He had 2 doubles, had a triple, or maybe he had a single, or no, he had 2 doubles, a single, and a home run, and he was a triple away from the cycle. I think it was the Cubs. I might be wrong, but that I do remember what happened because his home run, he crushed his home run. And I remember turning to Noah Spyrick, who was sitting next to me in the press box, and being like, dude, I forget sometimes how, Tovar's like 5'11", like he's not a big guy, and he can hit balls like 470 feet. Like I forget with how small he is as a Major League Baseball player. Dude had 26 home runs last year. I forget that sometimes, and he proved it in that game.
2 home run game, 4 RBIs against the Mets.
Okay, so that was
win
the Mets.
there. This is. I want to go back and watch all these now because there was one game in particular where he had like 4 RBIs and they won like 5-3 or something. Like there was a Tovar takeover game. Hunter Goodman, he had one of those 2. There was
he did
2 home run
Goodman
game.
Crushed it at the end of the year.
Big win. There's the big win against the Pirates. Scored like 16 runs, and Hunter Goodman had a couple home runs.
That was the Red Sox.
Was that?
No, wait. The Red Sox, they had that 20. The Red Sox, they had that huge 20-run win. That was the Red Sox, where they scored like 20+ runs. And won it in that one. I don't remember the Pirates one. That one I don't remember.
Okay.
I might have been.
They all kind of run together.
I might have been.
I think that was
looking somewhere else on that game.
The series. I was at that one, and then I think it might have been the day before we thought Skeens might pitch on. I think that was the Sunday, but they wound up being like a bullpen day or something.
Yeah. They rested Skeens.
That was before Father's Day.
Okay.
This would have been the Saturday before Father's Day, I think. Was crazy. That was.
We're going. This is like on Criminal Minds when they're like asking you. They're like asking you. Okay, remember what was the color of the sky that day?
It's like, but then it's like asking a sky watcher what's going on because it's like 162 days in a row. You look up and it's like, oh, sky on this day it has this.
Yeah, sure. I guess that's one way of comparing it.
I'm trying to think. Halverson had some awesome saves.
He did.
There was the one where
you're looking late in the season because that's with Halverson. If it's Halverson,
exactly. So
I must have missed this game because there were a couple
this is
road.
A different one.
Okay, there were a couple road games that I was doing other things.
Okay,
mine while you think through yours, mine was the 7-run comeback in the 8th inning. You were down 6 runs in the the bottom of the 8th inning. You score 7 runs to win it against, I believe, the Cubs. I believe that was in that same era. I won't. I'm not even going to look it up. I posted it on Twitter, but I literally was half asleep in that game. I again had turned to Noah sitting next to me in the press box, like, dude, I am just dying right now. Like, I was so tired. I don't know why. I think the sun was getting to me. I was just so tired. And I feel like all of a sudden I kind of snapped out of it and we were like down 2.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden we're winning.
Yep.
Scored 7 runs, ended up winning that game. That one was probably my favorite, or very close second to the Sam Hilliard down 2 outs at bottom of the 9th, down 2 runs, hitting a game-tying home run in which Tovar would end up walking it off in the 10th inning against the Cubs. That was my probably best.
I mean, that is a good one.
That was a good one.
It has everything. The other one that I look, again, like the blowouts are always nice.
Yeah, I mean, I would say honorable
that's
mentions.
just like a party.
Honorable mentions: Todd Helton ceremony, Charlie
of
Blackmon
course.
final
Yep.
game. Those
Yep.
are honorable mentions. Michael Tolia three home run game. That was although on the road, still
Yep.
a great one. Rymack, what was that? The opener walk off at Coors Field.
Of course,
that was
of course.
that was a big one.
That ball went right over our heads.
That was so. There were some good moments in 2024, despite all the bad.
Halverson though, wasn't there one where he like struck out the side in like 10 pitches or something?
Yeah. Oh, he did that a lot, actually.
I love that.
Anytime he was playing anyone but the Dodgers, really.
I love this bullpen.
I know. I'm
Even more
excited.
now.
I'm excited. Well, thanks for hanging out and talking ball with me, man. I know you've got a lot of Broncos stuff going on, so I appreciate you taking the time. This is it's fun to talk a little baseball.
163 more days. Is that what it was?
132.
Oh, we're getting close.
we're almost
it's
there.
right around the corner.
It's right around the corner.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of right around the corner, we got to go. Yaya's giving me the eyes, the angry eyes. We're wrapping things up. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. This has been the DNVR Rockies podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday, same time. Follow us on Twitter, DNVR_Rockies. We'll see you next time here on the DNVR Rockies podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.